But there are those in our party who believe that, as the presiding officer over the joint session of Congress, that I possess unilateral authority to reject electoral college votes. And I heard this week that President Trump said I had the right to overturn the election. But President Trump is wrong. I had no right to overturn the election. The presidency belongs to the American people and the American people alone. And frankly, there is no idea more un-American than the notion that any one person could choose the American president. Under the Constitution, I had no right to change the outcome of our election. And Kamala Harris will have no right to overturn the election when we beat them in 2024. Look, I understand the disappointment many feel about the last election. I was on the ballot. But whatever the future holds, I know we did our duty that day. John Quincy Adams reminds us, duty is ours. Results are God's. And the truth is, there's more at stake than our party or political fortunes. Men and women, if we lose faith in the Constitution, we won't just lose elections. We'll lose our country.
Well, that was monumental.
The former Vice President, Mike Pence, there saying something that we have not heard him say before. President Trump is wrong. I had no right to overturn the election.
We have not heard, as you said, Vice President Pence speak, I think, this fulsomely, this strongly about, I mean, we know that he had at one time what he considered a close relationship with President Trump, and he rarely speaks against the president. And to hear him say President Trump is wrong, and it was also interesting, the setting, the Federalist Society, they didn't boo, there was silence, but they are applauding him at other parts where he's talking about his allegiance to the Constitution.
Yeah, he certainly got an applause line when he said that Kamala Harris will have no right to overturn the election when we beat them in 2024. But I'd love to know some color inside the room, what the reaction was when they heard that from the former vice president. Let's bring in now CNN chief political analyst Gloria Borger, Bill Kristol, editor-at-large of The Bulwark. He is the director of Defending Democracy Together, and CNN political commentator Margaret Hoover, host of PBS Firing Line. Gloria, first to you. Now hearing this 13 months after the former president said that he indeed had the right to overturn the election. The significance of hearing this from Mike Pence.
Well, it's enormous. This is the first time we've heard the former vice president say directly that his former boss, whom he supported for his entire term, and say the president is wrong. I had no right to do what he wanted me to do, and so I didn't do it. Instead, I adhered to what the Constitution told me to do. And he used Justice Scalia and said, quoted him and said, our elections are run by the states, not by the Congress. And I think it's remarkable. And, the question I have, and of course it was a more receptive audience at the Federalist Society than it might be among some in the Republican base. But I think this is a rift with Donald Trump. It is now broken. It is not going to be repaired. He has decided to go his own way. And the question I have really is whether it means he's actually going to run or whether it means he's actually decided not to run and doesn't really have that concern as much about the Republican base. So we'll just have to see how it plays out, but it is remarkable. It is the first time we have really heard the former vice president say anything more than, well, we don't see eye to eye on that day.
Bill, he went even further. He said the presidency belongs to the American people and the American people alone. Frankly, there is almost no idea more un-American than the notion that any one person could choose the American president. Bill, what do you think of this moment?
As you were, Allison, Well, I'm glad Mike Pence said it. I'm I'm curious to see what he now says. Would he support Donald Trump if Donald Trump is the Republican nominee in 2024? For me, that's the core judgment, the core line that these people have to cross or stop at, depending on how you want to think of it. Liz Cheney has said Donald Trump should not be president again. If you're not willing to say that, you can distance yourself. You can get some, try to lay the groundwork for your own campaign by making clear now that so much more has come out, by making clear that what Trump did was unacceptable. You can try to position yourself as one notch to the more respectable side of Trump. But if you're not willing to say you won't support him in 2024, from my point of view, it's ultimately not that meaningful.
Margaret, let me read two more lines here from the former vice president and then get your thoughts. He also said that, I also share the concerns of millions of Americans about irregularities in the elections in several states, but those issues were resolved by our courts and our states. And then he went on to say, the truth is there's more at stake than our party or our political fortunes. If we lose faith in the Constitution, we won't lose just elections, we'll lose our country. Your thoughts on what we heard from Pence?
Look, I have believed for some time that Mike Pence was the unsung hero of January 6th, along with the police officers who fought on those front lines. And Mike Pence deserves a lot of recognition for doing exactly what he should have done, upholding the Constitution against enormous winds coming in his direction on that day. But what he just did today is as powerful because he is standing up for the Constitution in a party that has abandoned it. And he is giving hope and light to people who believe that there can be an opposition party to the Democrats that still believes in the Constitution. And what Mike Pence is doing here, I think, is drawing a line in the sand, saying, Trump, you're on one side, and I'm on the other. And that has enormous consequences, both for the country. It's enormously important that the former vice president says that about January 6th, enormously important. But it also has personal political consequences for a man who has always wanted to be president and by all accounts continues to aspire to the presidency in 2024. Bill Kristol's right. He has to say Donald Trump deserves to be nowhere near the presidency, but he has essentially just drawn a line in the sand and put himself opposed to Donald Trump, which is, as we all know, exactly where the base of the Republican Party is. They are with Trump. They are not with what Mike Pence just said. They disagree with Mike Pence.